Let's now bring in Joe Siracusa, the Dean of Global Futures at Curtin University's Faculty of Humanities. Thank you, Joe, for being with us on the program. As Paul mentioned there, Ukrainians are expecting this big retaliatory response from Russia. Trump had said following that phone call that Russia is going to retaliate. What do you expect that to look like?
Good morning, Neptune. Well, it's probably going to be a major retaliation. You know, in December, I think, it was about Richard Nixon was around 1972. The North Vietnamese did something that Richard Nixon didn't want as they were negotiating. So Nixon decided to visit North Vietnamese with 11 days of bombing. So you can count on this, that the Russians will reply in a way they probably haven't replied before. Now, Efren, the interesting thing here is they're both talking to each other. The Ukrainians were boasting today that this attack on these bomber jets and these bomber fighters and the rest of it were showing that destroyed the prestige of the Russian Federation and showed that they have to come to some kind of terms at the table. The Russians, on the other hand, have made it very clear, Putin made it very clear to Nixon that he has to respond in order to have credibility and maybe even extra bargaining chips at the table. So, you know, in a way, these attacks on each other and the ones that are coming are all about the diplomatic process. It is a very sad way to end this war, but I'm afraid it's going to end like this. It's going to be ending in violence. And, you know, and in case the audience hasn't missed it, I mean, it's quite clear that Donald Trump has walked away from Ukraine. I mean, his defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, avoided the Ukraine defense contact meeting the other day. First time that an American has missed it in 3 years. Mm-hmm. So they ain't giving any more money. You know, $61 billion, I think, is about all they're going to do. There's no more allocated in the pipeline, et cetera. So Donald Trump is really telling the Ukrainians and Zelensky, you're on your own.
Right.
And the decision
I want to talk about that a bit because
Russia
Trump, as you mentioned, he seems to have distanced himself from this conflict after calling Putin crazy in particular. What would the ramifications be for this war if Trump does indeed move aside completely?
Well, I mean, there'll be some violent convulsions and the rest of it, and there'll be a long, drawn-out process. I believe that the Turkey will play a major role in bringing this war to an end, along with the Europeans. I mean, because the Americans cannot be counted on. I mean, it's going to be violence and that kind of thing, accompanied by some kind of diplomacy. This war will end with a whimper at the end of it, and the negotiations might take a long, long time. I mean, it didn't have to be this way. And keep in mind, I believe that President Truman has become fatalistic. That is, he doesn't really care about how the war ends. You know, when I say he washed his hands, what I'm saying is he doesn't really care how it ends. He knows it's going to end, but it's going to end without the United States at the negotiating table, as he has other things to do. And he's made it very clear he wants to cut deals with Putin and do other things. So I think he's going to leave the Ukrainians to figure this out themselves and leave them to the tender ministrations of Russian diplomacy.
Okay, Joe Siracusa, thank you so much for being with us on the program and as always sharing that analysis. I appreciate it.